In 2013, the world came to know Canadian student Elisa Lam in an unexpected and disturbing way. A surveillance video recorded inside an elevator at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles showed the young woman behaving strangely, pressing multiple buttons, making erratic hand gestures, and hiding as if fleeing from something. Days later, her body would be found in a water tank on the hotel's rooftop, with no clear signs of violence and a series of questions that remain unanswered to this day. The case exploded across social media, dissected by legions of internet sleuths and surrounded by theories, murder, conspiracy, the paranormal, negligence. But behind the speculation was the story of a young woman with a history of bipolar disorder, traveling alone in search of experience and self-discovery. The line between mystery and real-life tragedy was beginning to blur. The Cecil Hotel, long infamous for its dark history of suicides, murders, and infamous guests like Richard Ramirez, became once again the backdrop of a macabre story. But what really happened to Elisa Lam? Was she a victim of someone else, of her own mind, or of something no one could explain? Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, what do you believe happened to Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel? Elisa Lam was born on April 30, 1991, in Vancouver, Canada. The daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong, she grew up in a household that valued education and effort. From an early age, she showed intelligence, sensitivity, and a deeply introspective nature. On her social media and personal blog, she wrote about books, emotions, mental health, and the struggle to feel connected to the world. Like many of her generation, she was someone searching for meaning amid the noise of modern life. A student at the University of British Columbia, Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and clinical depression. She spoke openly about her psychological challenges, the side effects of medication, and the constant effort required to stay stable. Despite her episodes, she dreamed of freedom. Traveling alone was her way of proving she was capable of reclaiming a sense of autonomy she often felt was slipping away in the confines of family and academic life. In early 2013, Elisa set off on a solo trip down the U.S. West Coast. Starting in San Diego, she arrived in Los Angeles in January and checked into the Cecil Hotel, an old, deteriorated building in the city's downtown. The hotel offered shared rooms, which initially seemed affordable, but after complaints from roommates about her erratic behavior, Elisa was moved to a private room. During her first few days, she kept regular contact with her parents, sending emails and calling daily. She spoke about the places she visited, her impressions, and even mentioned plans to explore bookstores, cafes, and museums. But on January 31, communication stopped. It would be the last time Elisa Lam was seen alive. From the outside, Elisa appeared to be just another young woman, shy, sensitive, traveling alone and sharing her journey online. But inside, as her own writings revealed, she was fighting a silent battle, one between her desire for freedom and the shadows that followed her. And it would be in that invisible space between what we see and what we don't, that the mystery would take root. Long before her name became tied to mystery, Elisa Lam was a young woman fighting something most people couldn't see. The brutal swings between euphoria and collapse. The constant questioning of what was real and what was distorted by her mind. Diagnosed with bipolar type 1 and clinical depression, Elisa endured manic episodes, deep anxiety, and stretches of emotional paralysis. Her writing revealed a soul oscillating between clarity and the abyss. She spoke of sleepless nights, racing thoughts, moments when the world felt hostile and incomprehensible. She wrote about her frustration with the side effects of medication, the numbness, the loss of focus, the fear of becoming a shadow of herself, and yet, she also expressed moments of hope. Elisa clung to books, films, and music as a way to anchor herself to life, to reach something solid when her mind began to drift. Her blog posts read like cries into a void, intimate confessions shared with strangers, in the hope that someone somewhere might understand. She described loneliness, the feeling of being alien even among people, and the confusion of living with two versions of herself, one that wanted to live boldly and another that quietly longed to disappear, one that dreamed of the future and one that feared waking up the next morning. That's the context behind her trip. In her own words, it was meant to be proof to herself, that she could still function, still exist in the real world, that she could be independent, brave, in control. But what happens when that test collides with the limits of the brain? When the longing for freedom crashes against emotional fragility? Elisa wasn't just the subject of strange footage or a name in a headline. She was someone who fought, every day, to stay present. Her death, as mysterious as it may seem, is also a reflection of how poorly we understand and respond to mental illness. The real horror may not lie in what cameras captured, but in what no one saw, the silent pain of a mind at war with itself. On the morning of February 4th, 2013, Elisa Lam stopped communicating with her parents. For them, it wasn't just a missed message, it was a signal that something was wrong. They immediately contacted the Los Angeles Police Department, and the search at the Cecil Hotel began. At first, efforts were limited. Elisa's room was searched, security footage reviewed, but nothing seemed out of place. No signs of struggle, forced entry, or any trace of her movements. The first major clue came a few days later, when police released elevator surveillance footage. Elisa appears agitated, pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out of the elevator, peering into the hallway, as if being followed. Her movements are erratic, sometimes abrupt, sometimes almost childlike. At one point, she hides in a corner of the elevator, then makes strange gestures with her hands, as if communicating with someone or something that isn't visible. The elevator doors never close. The result is deeply unsettling. The video went viral. Viewers from around the world dissected every frame, applying filters, slowing it down, adding sound. Was she being chased? Was she playing around? Was she hallucinating? The absence of audio and context fueled the imagination. The internet lit up with theory. Meanwhile, strange complaints began surfacing within the hotel. Guests reported problems with the water. Some noticed a strange color, an unpleasant taste, and a foul odor coming from their taps and showers. In the hallways, comments began to spread. It tastes like there's iron in the water. Are the pipes rusted? This water is awful. On February 19, a maintenance worker climbed to the rooftop to inspect the water tank. Inside one of them, he found the nude, partially decomposed body of Elisa Lam. Her clothes were at the bottom of the tank. The rooftop was difficult to access. A locked door, an exterior ladder, and a heavy lid. According to early reports, that lid was found closed, a detail that only deepened the mystery. The discovery was not just tragic, it was horrific. Elisa's body had been there for weeks, dissolving in the same water that guests drank, bathed in, and brushed their teeth with. And even with the body found, the case felt far from over. Now the question was even more disturbing. Did Elisa get there alone? How? And why? With Elisa Lam's body finally recovered, many believed the answers would follow. But what emerged instead was a deeper fog. The autopsy, released weeks later, showed no significant physical trauma. There were no signs of assault, no evidence of sexual violence, and no injuries consistent with a struggle. Yet the fact that she was found nude, with her clothes at the bottom of the water tank, didn't fit the pattern of a typical accidental drowning. The toxicology report only added to the confusion. Traces of her prescribed medications for bipolar disorder were detected, but at lower than expected levels. No illicit drugs were found, nor any alcohol. This opened two possibilities. Either Elisa had stopped taking her medication, which could have triggered a psychotic episode, or her body had metabolized the substances in a way that clouded the test results. In both scenarios, science offered more uncertainty than clarity. The police concluded there was no evidence of foul play. According to the official report, Elisa had suffered a psychological episode, accessed the rooftop alone, climbed into the water tank while disoriented, and drowned. But this version didn't convince everyone. The tank's lid was initially described as closed and later open. Hotel staff said it would have been difficult, if not impossible, for someone to access that area unnoticed. Adding to the doubt was the lack of surveillance footage from the rooftop. There were no camera recordings of Elisa climbing the stairs, no images of her entering the upper levels, no footage at all to explain how she got there. Was it a technical failure, an oversight, or was something intentionally erased? The internet, already obsessed, dug deeper. Amateur investigators began scrutinizing suspicious guests, theorizing about serial killers, or implicating hotel employees. The Cecil Hotel, long known for harboring darkness, became even more notorious. But perhaps the most haunting element was this. Despite all the theories, there was no clear evidence, no witness, no conclusive truth, only a lifeless body and a silence no forensic report could explain. When Elisa Lam's body was pulled from the Cecil Hotel's water tank, veiled in weeks of decomposition and silence, the world waited for answers. The questions were many. How did she get there? Why was she undressed? Was someone chasing her, helping her? Did someone kill her? But when the answers came, they didn't soothe, they unsettled. The official autopsy stated, accidental drowning, no signs of trauma, no signs of sexual assault, no illicit substances. Elisa, they said, had suffered a psychotic episode, brought on by her bipolar disorder. To the coroner, to the LAPD, to the legal system, the case was closed. But the public wasn't ready to accept that silence so easily. How could a young woman, psychotic or not, access a restricted rooftop, climb onto a large water tank, lift a heavy lid, and submerge herself without leaving any trace? How could a building with security cameras on nearly every floor fail to capture a single image of her ascent? And why did the story about the tank's lid change, first closed, then open? Everything felt conveniently blurry. As justice declared the case explained, doubt only grew. Did Elisa get lost inside her mind? Or inside something much more tangible? Did someone follow her that night, push her toward that end? Or was the hotel itself, with its suffocating architecture, maze-like hallways and history soaked in death, the true accomplice? The official version came cloaked in clinical terms, but the real narrative spread through images, theories, and fear. Elisa became a digital myth, but behind that myth was a girl who dreamed, who suffered, and who wanted to live. The world last saw her trapped in an elevator that neither rose nor fell, and perhaps that's the perfect metaphor. A life suspended between what is said and what will never be revealed. The Elisa Lam case could have become just another entry among countless stories of disappearances and unexplained deaths. But something about it refuses to fade. Maybe it's the video, disturbing, silent, almost hypnotic. Maybe it's the setting, the Cecil Hotel, a building that feels layered with untold stories of bodies fallen, crimes forgotten, and darkness that lingers in the walls. Or maybe it's Elisa, a real human young woman, filled with fears and longings, who became a symbol of a world that still doesn't know how to deal with mental illness. After her death, the Cecil Hotel temporarily shut down, underwent renovations, and was rebranded. But its reputation stuck. It wasn't just an old building in downtown Los Angeles. It was a place that seemed to attract the inexplicable. Tales of serial killers, suicides, ghost sightings, cults. And now, Elisa. As if the hotel were a character in itself, absorbing the stories of everyone who crossed its halls. But Elisa Lam's true legacy doesn't reside in those dark corridors. It lives in the conversations her case provoked, about isolation, about institutional neglect, about how little we still understand the human mind. The elevator video circled the globe. But few people read her blog entries, saw her digital confessions, her courage in speaking about pain. The mystery went viral, but the person behind it faded into the background. In the years that followed, documentaries, forums, and theories tried to recover fragments of truth. But perhaps the hardest truth of all is that Elisa may have died not because of something otherworldly, but something painfully ordinary, a silent illness, an indifferent system, and a world that prefers fiction over fact. Her legacy is an invitation to empathy, to look beyond the mystery, beyond the video, and see the girl who once wrote, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life." The girl who, even lost between floors and voices, just wanted to find a place where she could feel safe. The case of Elisa Lam, forces us to face the abyss between what we see and what we understand, between what the camera captures and what the soul endures. Her death, shrouded in unanswered questions, should not be remembered solely for the mystery around it, but for the harsh reality it represents. Elisa was a young woman battling her own mind, in a world that still prefers to look away from invisible pain. Behind the frozen elevator, the tainted water, the hotel's silence, there was a cry for help, no one heard in time. We may never know exactly what happened that night at the Cecil, but we know what the world did with her story. It turned pain into content, erased the human layers, and left only the myth. If this video moved you, share it. Elisa deserves to be remembered with dignity, not as a mystery, but as someone who existed, who felt, who was left alone in a place no one should ever be alone. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments, what do you believe really happened to Elisa Lam?